We're back now with Jackie Calmes, national correspondent for the New York Times, and John Dickerson, chief political correspondent for Slate magazine. Morning to you both.
Morning, Harry.
Is Tim Geithner in trouble?
He's in trouble. When a president has to say, I stand behind X, you never want to be X. And so it's bad for the Treasury Secretary, but of course the president keeps saying he's got my full faith, even if he tried to resign.
Jackie?
I'd make sure he stayed.
Yeah, you know, when Tim Geithner got confirmed after having some tax lapses that came to light, it was said that he was too big to fail, too much experience, too smart. And
just like these big banks.
Right. And now, despite this, you know, you still have a situation where if you get rid of Tim Geithner, who do you bring in? He doesn't even have his Treasury staffed with senior assistants yet, so who would be Treasury?
And how can that be? Why is it here we are, however many weeks into this, that these slots are not filled?
Well, I think first it's a lot to do with President Obama's strictures on not bringing in lobbyists and anybody who's had anything to do with lobbying, so that leaves out a lot of tax lawyers and others who have ever worked for a company and registered to lobby. And second, Tim Geithner's own tax problems when he went through confirmation now has had the administration doubling up on its vetting, and it just makes it hard. And some people who in their private life got bonuses, now bonuses is a four-letter word.
Mm-hmm. What are you
Well, I was just going to say the other problem here is confidence. It's not really an economic indicator, but and Geithner, not a lot of people have confidence in him. So next week he's going to announce this bank bailout plan, and there will be a lot of questions about, well, there are the merits of the plan itself, but what about him selling it? And is this public-private partnership going to be able to go forward if the man selling it is somebody people don't have confidence in? And that'll be debated all next week on a parallel track to the actual merits of the plan.
I mean, tiny pieces have been leaked out, and already there's this giant blowback about it already. In this whole economic universe, is the president trying to do too much, as was suggested earlier in this half hour?
That's an issue, and also another one links up with the AIG bonus mess, which is people are saying this administration doesn't get it. They're still too tied to the Wall Street mentality that this bank, that this public-private partnership, Mr. Goolsbee said everybody has skin in the game. The arguments are that basically no, the Wall Street investors won't have enough skin in the game.
The tax buyers are the ones with the
skin in the game, and that matches up with the criticism we heard this week with the AIG bonuses, so that the problem continues.
Well, there are those who say they're trying to do too much, but there's also those saying they're doing too little. You mentioned the Paul Krugman column in the New York Times. There are people who just want to nationalize the banks, and the administration doesn't want to go that far.
And one of the other arguments about this toxic, I was going to say waste, but toxic asset bailout this week is that they're not going to spend enough money, that it's a $3 trillion problem.
Right.
They're talking about maybe spending $1 trillion or so. I want to talk about the budget and the CBO and this notion that there's so much more deficit involved, and a lot of moderates and people who might be inclined to support the president are going to back away from it because it grows the deficit too much. You wrote about this a little bit this week. How is the president going to get health care through this thing if the budget looms as a huge issue?
Well, that's a big question. He has been making the argument from the start, with a lot to recommend it, that you need to spend money on health care first in order to get cost savings that ultimately will bring this under control. Right. And healthcare costs are what's driving the projections of unsustainable deficits going forward. But
and how do we get that? How does the president get that away from a filibuster?
Right. The savings are long term. He needs the budget is done a year at a time, or 5 years at most, and so he needs to have savings now. The filibuster, they're talking about having this arcane reconciliation process, which would just do anything but reconcile the Republicans. It would send them into a fury because it would, in effect, take away the filibuster power.
Which basically just is a majority rules.
But that may be the only way that you can pass a health care bill this year, is with a stricture that says you can get 51 votes, not 60.
What do you think?
Well, it's a problem when you came to Washington and say you're going to create an era of bipartisanship, and you use a tool here that basically removes the Republicans from the conversation. Judd Gregg, once Commerce Secretary in this administration, said these are Chicago rules, a little hyperbolic, but nevertheless, here you have it breaking down on this question of bipartisanship.
I got about a minute left, and this is for both of you. This notion that the president has been out, he was on Jay Leno this week, he's done these town meetings and everything else. Has he effectively used the bully pulpit he has in order to communicate his goals and what he's trying to do? Is it time for the fireside chat? Is it time for the Ross Perot pie charts?
he's done a halfway good job. The problem is he's not Geithner. He can't fix Geithner himself, but he'll give a press conference Tuesday night. He's still got the country behind him. He's still very good at these things. So I don't think he's spread too thin, and I think he'll be able to use the tools.
Yeah, I think, he still projects a calming influence. He's still got high popularity, but it's come down. And he's got a bad hand dealt. So
Thank you both very much for your time this morning. Do appreciate it.